A text cannot mean now what it never meant then. With that in mind, he, speaking of Jesus, then began to teach them that the Son of Man must suffer many things and be rejected by the elders, chief priests, and teachers of the law. And then he must be killed and after 3 days rise again. He spoke plainly about this, and Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him. But when Jesus turned and looked at his disciples, he rebuked Peter. "Get behind me, Satan," he said. "You do not have in mind the things of God, but the things of men." Then he called the crowd to him, along with his disciples, and said, "If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever wants to save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for me and for the gospel will save it. What good is it for a man to gain the whole world, yet forfeit his soul? Or what can a man give in exchange for his soul? If anyone is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, the Son of Man will be ashamed of him when he comes in his Father's glory with the holy angels." The portion of this text that I'd like to zoom in on today is found in Mark 8:34, where it speaks of Jesus calling the crowd to him along with his disciples. This scene took place, as we know from the parallel account in Mark chapter 16, this scene took place in Caesarea Philippi, northern end of the area of Israel. Recently, I was able to tour this area. There's a large cliff with a great cutout of the rock from which the headwaters of the Jordan River flow. But it also creates quite an eerie recess in the rock, which has been dubbed the Gates of Hades since ancient times. So it is interesting that this is also the spot where Jesus says that the gates of Hades cannot prevail against the church. But getting specifically to this point, it speaks of Jesus calling a crowd to him along with his disciples. Because of this cliff, I pictured looking down and imagining Jesus surrounded tightly, intimately by his disciples, and then a crowd beginning to gather in concentric circles that would emanate from him with varying degrees of commitment as people gathered to hear him speak. And as he spoke with this crowd around him, these amazing words, "If anyone would come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me." We've already considered the ideas of denying oneself and following me in previous podcasts. Here I'd like to take a look at the idea of taking up your cross. It's become a phrase that is so familiar that perhaps it's actually lost its significance, or at least has lost the edge, which Jesus really meant it to have as he spoke these words. And to be able to see that edge, we want to make sure that we're hearing what he heard, what he spoke to this original crowd, that we could imagine ourselves likewise gathered around this Messiah, this Christ, wondering what it is that he is teaching, and then hearing these words about following him, denying self, and taking up the cross. So,